Most people simply go to their nearest consulate and hope for the best. But in 2026, that's often the biggest mistake you can make in the entire residency process. Why? Well, not all Mexican consulates are the same, and picking the wrong one could cost you months of waiting for an appointment or even the unnecessary stress of getting denied. Yes, it's possible to get denied even if you are financially eligible. But today I'll give you a simple framework for choosing the right consulate for your profile so that you can get your visa approved faster and with less stress. By the end of this video, you'll know how to match your profile to the right consulate, why consulate choice matters way more than you think, and the consulate traps to avoid in 2026. This video is part 2 of our 2026 Mexican residency series. In part 1, we covered the 5-step process of getting Mexican residency from start to finish. In this one, we're zooming in on how to find the right Mexican consulate for your visa appointment, because in the end, this appointment is the make or break moment. If you're new around here, my name is Gordon. My wife Aimara and I went through this process ourselves, and now we help other Americans and Canadians get their residency without wasting time and energy on difficult consulates. We're making this video because we don't want you to pick the wrong consulate and delay your dream of moving to Mexico. So let's jump into step 1, understanding why consulate choice matters. Let's start with the big picture. On paper, the consulates have the same general rules and requirements. To be eligible for a visa, you basically have to show 2 things. Number 1, you have to show that you are financially eligible, and you have to show that you have a plan to spend significant time in Mexico and that this plan supports your need for a visa instead of, say, entering as a tourist. But even though these general rules sound pretty straightforward, consulates enforce things very differently. What can change from office to office includes the financial requirements for proving solvency, which income and investment types they actually accept, how strict they are with how your documents are presented. So for this one, I'm thinking requirements like wet signatures, verification letters, bank stamps, those kinds of things. And finally, how intense the interview is. And separate from the rules and requirements, consulates can also vary in 2 different things, including how easy it is to find an appointment and how far into the future that appointment will be. So yes, there are a lot of moving parts. That's why 2 people with similar finances can have totally different experiences. One could get a quick approval while the other might get denied. And this is also why the goal isn't really to find that one easy consulate. The goal is really to find the right consulate based on your financial situation, your timeline, and your overall flexibility. But to do that, you have to know your profile first, which brings me to step 2, know your profile before deciding on a consulate. So before you go down any research rabbit holes, assign yourself one of these financial profiles. Profile A is 95% nothing to worry about. So this would be you if you're proving financial solvency using your Social Security and or pension income, or savings and investments in a checking or savings account, taxable brokerage account, or if you're around retirement age, retirement accounts like a 401k or IRA. So there are still consulates that want to see you prove financial solvency with a single account or entirely with your savings or checking account. That's why I'm calling this a 95% nothing to worry about profile, because there are still wildcards out there. Financial profile B, we're calling confirm you're okay. So this is more like a yellow light situation versus the previous green light. So this would be you if, for example, you're proving solvency with W-2 income. So many consulates accept that, but they often require a very specific verification letter from your employer stating you'll continue to work from Mexico. Or if you're well below retirement age and want to use retirement accounts like IRAs or 401k, that works at many consulates and absolutely does not at others. So this was my situation, and I was thankfully okay in Miami. You're also in profile B if you're relying on things like annuities or other investments that aren't necessarily fully liquid. So some offices would accept these investments and others definitely do not. If you feel like you're in the financial profile B, you definitely need to double check if your consulate will accept your investment or income types. So financial profile C, we're calling your options are limited. So this would be you if you're proving solvency with irregular 1099 income, self-employed income where you pay yourself through owner draws or distributions, or if you're using rental income. So to be clear, there are some consulates that will accept these income types, but the group is definitely much smaller, and you can't simply just assume that your nearest consulate is on that list. So again, it is helpful to assign yourself one of these profiles. If you need to rewind and go back to listen to what they're all about, definitely do that. But as a quick summary, profile A is the 95% okay profile. Profile B, you will probably have to do a little bit of research just to make sure that the consulate accepts your income or asset type. And Profile C is a little bit similar, except for you're probably going to have to do a little bit of extra legwork, just reaching out to consulates and finding the handful that do accept things like rental income or irregular 1099 income. Before jumping in, I know all of this is a lot to digest, but if you want to see where this consulate decision fits into the entire residency process, be sure to check out our free Mexican residency cheat sheet. It walks you through all the major stages from getting ready for your appointment to residency card in hand, how this consulate choice fits into your overall timeline, and common pitfalls to watch out for at each stage of the residency process so you are never caught off guard. This 5-minute cheat sheet is linked below in the video description and also the top pinned comment. And guys, real quick, we did put a lot of effort into making this actionable and digestible. So if you are serious about getting residency in 2026, definitely grab it. Again, it's linked below in the description and top pinned comment. We'll explain how to actually find a consulate that fits your profile in step 3. But another thing that you want to think about that will make your life easier or more difficult is your flexibility profile. So this would mean, are you willing to attend appointments either locally only, so the nearest consulates to you, or are you willing to travel? So are you willing to go to consulates that give you a better chance of getting approved? And again, defining your profile will keep you from chasing a consulate that's just wrong for your reality. So from here on out, ask yourself, based on my financial profile and flexibility, which consulates will make this easy for me and which are no-goes. And this is what step 3 is all about, how to build a simple 3-part consulate checklist. So for any consulate you're considering, you're first looking at financial fit. So are the monthly income or savings and investment requirements comfortably below what you've had for the last 6 or 12 months, depending on how you're applying? And are your assets and income types accepted at that particular consulate? The second part of the checklist is timeline fit. So how long does it even take to find an appointment? Does it take a day, weeks, or even months? Also, how long into the future are available appointments? Is it a few weeks from now or 6 months into the future? And is the consulate nearby and reasonably easy for you to visit? And the last part of the checklist is consulate strictness. So is the consulate that you're looking at reported to be very particular about stamps, wet signatures, and verification letters? And is the interview process straightforward, or are they going to grill you on if you really plan on moving to Mexico in the upcoming months? So for most people, just running through this checklist for like 2 to 4 consulates is enough to make a smart choice. So again, use it to pick a consulate that you are clearly financially eligible for and that accepts your income or investment types, makes it easy to find available appointments, is generally convenient to get to, and isn't known for unpredictable denials even to those people who are technically eligible. But now you're probably wondering, how am I going to find out any of this information? Well, that takes us to step 4, how to shop consulates without going nuts. So one thing to note is that the consulate websites, they're not always completely up to date. So we don't really treat the consulate website as like the ultimate truth. Instead, we combine 3 things. So the first thing you're gonna use actually is that consulate website, but just for the basics. So what you're gonna do is Google Mexican consulate plus the city name. Make sure it's an official gob.mx site, just to make sure it's the official government site. And once on the website, go to their Visas for Foreigners page. Check if they have updated financial requirements and if they say anything about what type of assets they accept. You also want to check if they say anything about how they make appointments. So is it email, mi consulado, or even Calendly? And if you find an email address, definitely write it down. And a quick pro tip here, scroll to the bottom of the page for the latest update. So some of the websites are in English and it'll say latest update and the date. But if it says something like última actualización, that's what that means, just latest update. If it wasn't updated in 2026, then you can't fully rely on the information. And the second thing we do to help us shop consulates is to check Facebook communities. So there are several Facebook communities out there, but there is one that is very, very active, and that's called Getting Mexican Residency, the Original. So obviously this community is focused on getting Mexican residency, and this is where people share recent experiences, where they got approved or denied, things like appointment wait times you can find there, interview notes, a lot of good stuff. So this particular Facebook community really is a good source to get kind of like a first-hand experience of people that went to the consulate that you might be looking at. Just keep in mind to always check on the posting date because things do change at consulates, and also consider that the person writing may not have had the exact same financial profile as you. Now the last tip for getting intel circles back to the consulates, and that is simply contact them to confirm details. So once you've shortlisted 1 or 2 consulates, the best practice is just to shoot them an email with any lingering questions that you might have. Just be sure to make this very specific to your situation and also very short. So relevant questions could be, do you accept out of area applicants, or do you accept this investment type? So definitely shoot them the email. Whether or not they respond really depends on the consulate, but it's definitely worth a shot. So that's it. Pretty simple. You're going to use that consulate website for the basics, the Facebook community group for first-hand accounts, and an email to your consulate for any final questions. Put together, following these 3 steps really puts you in a much better position than simply going to your nearest consulate blindly. And now the last step to success, step number 5, avoid these common consulate traps. Let me quickly hit the biggest consulate-related traps that we're seeing right now, starting with trap number 1. Closest to me is best. This trap is assuming that your local consulate is your only option, even if it is a terrible one. But obviously you guys are not going to fall for this one because you're watching this video and you know how to find a good consulate. So for example, if you're self-employed or have less common investment types, don't go to a consulate that is rigid with those exact things. So back to the example about myself. I went to Miami and got approved using my IRA retirement account. If I had gone to Orlando with that same exact account, I would have been denied because I'm not close to retirement age. So unless you have a very standard profile, so remember financial profile A, 95%, nothing to worry about. If that's not you, then definitely do some research to find out that a consulate is a good fit for you. Trap number 3 is ignoring appointment backlogs. So this is for people who get emotionally attached to a single consulate. And Las Vegas might be a good example for this one. It is a very popular consulate, so much so that towards the end of 2025, the wait time to get an appointment was 5 or 6 months. And we're already hearing that they're pretty busy again in 2026. So the point here is that there often are options, and there are other consulates in the Las Vegas area that can get people approved sooner. So don't get emotionally attached to a single consulate. Trap number 4, aimlessly searching for appointments. So some consulates don't release appointments on a regular schedule, and those that do, the appointments really can get snatched up in a hurry. So similar to the previous point, don't just lock into one consulate. If you're finding it very difficult to find an appointment, this can be a serious bottleneck in the process, and just kind of widen your search and find another good consulate where it is easier to make an appointment. Avoiding these 4 things already puts you way ahead of most people. Just keep in mind that what happens at a consulate can change overnight. So to avoid the consulate trap in 2026, know your financial profile and flexibility. Use the simple checklist, financial fit, timeline fit, and strictness. Compare 2 to 3 realistic consulates instead of defaulting to the closest one, and avoid the 4 traps I just explained. And guys, remember, if you want a clear outline of the full residency journey so that you can make this consulate decision with the right context, grab our free 5-minute cheat sheet down below. It shows you the full process end to end, the timing, and also the landmines to avoid so you're not figuring it out as you go. And if you already know that you want a personalized consulate-specific plan and support all the way until you have your residency card in hand, reach out to us via email to learn about our custom residency services. My email will be right here and also in the description below. Remember, this video is part of our 2026 Mexican residency series. If you want to learn about the other steps to getting residency, you can check out that playlist right here. Gracias.